I love the lamp. Um, I'm curious about the lamp, which is great. I like having things that make me wonder, like the windmill, not windmill. It's not a windmill. It's a water wheel.
Watermelon.
Water, watermill.
Yeah.
Um, it has a lot of character, and I'm sure it has a really great story that I want to know.
Welcome to Next to the Lamp. Meh, 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 meh. Yeah, you guys know the deal.
You could have pressed a button.
I could have pressed a button, yeah, but it's not on there, and it's never going to be on there. It's kind of like a running joke of the podcast now.
All right.
So I've had this since 2021, and I could program all the sounds on it. I don't.
But you could.
I could totally.
But you could.
I like having the option and just not doing it.
Agency.
Yeah. It goes along with like consistency,
Yeah.
People come to expect it now, and I don't want to, frighten the listeners when they're like, "Wait, is that like, I don't know, is this the right podcast?"
You think that they won't recognize your voice or your style in any other way?
Yeah. So I have to at the beginning of every podcast, so they know it's me.
Appropriate.
Yeah, because we most of my downloads are audio downloads, right?
Sure.
So I could be someone entirely different for all they know.
Just a robot.
Yeah, with AI now.
Oh, yeah?
with 100, I think I have 197 hours of content. So that could train an AI.
You could absolutely train a robot that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we have an amazing guest for you guys today. Her name is Ann Mason. Ann Mason. How did you prefer that?
You can call me Ann Mason, but you can also just call me Ann. A lot of people do like using the full name. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's very I don't know, like 3 syllables, right?
Yeah, it has a good cadence to it.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Like your parents did well on that.
Yeah. Good job, Chuck and Glenda.
Yeah. Chuck and Glenda. Huh? Perfect. Well, Ann has
You could have used the full name there.
I could have stopped myself from like using it. She has a theatrical
background.
I was gonna say nonprofit, like getting into like what you do specifically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I founded a nonprofit theater company.
Okay.
So you could say that, but since it's a nonprofit, I don't have it because it's not owned by me,
right?
Which is always the the specifics, linguistics of it. But I also am no longer the director of that company. I passed it off to new leadership last year. So now I'm doing freelance artistry, creative consulting, helping other theater companies around the state enhance their practices. And then on the flip side, using theater to help businesses with soft skills, public speaking, creative problem solving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's a lot.
I would get bored.
Yeah, I feel that.
All at the same time.
But, seems like missed opportunities.
Nah.
No.
I want to be able to give my full attention to one thing. It's just short bursts. So I might spend one afternoon working with a business and then the next evening working with a theater company at a rehearsal or something like that. But I want to be able to focus all of my mental power to whatever's at hand.
Nah, not me, man. Not me. I'm constantly doing like 5 separate things at one time. Mostly staying alive, it seems like. Surviving until the next day.
The autonomic nervous system is supposed to take care of some of that for you.
I forget to breathe sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Breath work. It's important.
Did you ever like have those therapy sessions where they're like, you got to focus on your breathing to help like calm down?
I have friends who have had that.
Yeah.
I personally have not, but I also have years of training in how to breathe.
Oh, see,
so,
no, not me.
That's really what you get when you go to college for acting.
Yeah. I think when they tell me to focus on my breathing, I like started thinking about my breathing and then I quit breathing. And then it just like becomes like a cycle. I just spiraled down.
Well, so many people don't know how to actually breathe correctly. They think that like taking a deep breath is filling the chest cavity, or like lifting their shoulders as they breathe, which is actually cutting off that airflow to your diaphragm and like filling a full lung deep belly breath, which is what you actually want to be doing in breath work. So
Interesting.
these are the types of things that I teach people.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I guess I never really thought about it. You know, nobody's ever told me that I was breathing wrong. But
Yeah.
actually, I do. Evidently I breathe wrong when I sleep because I have tongue tie.
Oh,
So do you know what that is?
no.
Okay. So like the webbing under my tongue is more pronounced.
Oh, okay.
And so it doesn't allow proper airflow
Sure.
when I breathe, because when you have your mouth closed and you're not talking, you're not using your mouth or whatever, eating, all that kind of stuff, your tongue is supposed to be on the roof of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have tongue tie, it's down. It stays down.
Right. And that would, I guess the larynx would then maybe be a little bit closed off.
Right. So when I sleep, it like moves back,
Yeah.
which closes off that area.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I've done a lot of physical therapy, so it's mostly fixed now.
But it's probably something that you have to have an acute awareness of, which when you're subconscious.
Right. Yeah. All right. It's super fun, super cool.
Yeah.
I love having medical problems.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. Yeah.
So let's get into the extent of your medical problems. So here we go. Yeah, starting when you were a kid.
Well, when I was a kid, I had kidney infections and ear infections.
Cool. That's good. That's good. That's good. We don't need to get it. We're still mostly HIPAA compliant around here. Okay.
I mean, if you offer it freely, that's
right. True. Yeah. So let's start in with baby Ann. Where are you from?
Baby Ann, born and raised in Laramie, Wyoming.
Okay.
I share a birthday with the state of Wyoming.
Cool.
Not the same year, but the same day.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah, I'm actually a vampire.
Cool.
Yeah. That's why I look so young, but same age as our great state.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have you watched What We Do in the Shadows?
No.
What? Really?
Really?
Being vampiric, I would feel like that would be one of your best shows.
Yeah, and vampires don't sleep, do they? So I would have
they
time
do.
for. Oh, they do? Okay.
During
Yeah.
the
So
day.
right. So I'm just too busy sleeping.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you'll have to remind me what day that is.
It's July 10th.
July. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Jubilee days.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was a
remember that.
kid, I definitely had the misconception that every year the city of Laramie was throwing a great big hoopla street party for me.
Oh,
You know?
yeah. Why not?
Yeah. 3 days of street dances, pancake breakfast, carnival, all of it for my birthday.
Sam Mason Day.
Yeah.
Perfect. I would love that, actually. I wouldn't even change it now that I know the difference.
Yeah. I will say then when I was like when I first moved back to town 10 years ago, it was great. I never had to plan an adult birthday party. I just was like, hey, it's my birthday. Come to the street dance.
Easy.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, dude, I would love that.
Yeah.
My birthday's not really anything spectacular. It did fall on Easter one time when I was little.
But that changes every year. So
Yep. Sure does. And I really don't even know how it landed on my birthday, because like it's March 29th. So like
it was a really early Easter.
super early Easter.
Yeah.
I think I was like maybe 4 or 5 when that happened.
Now I'm really confused. I thought that it had something to do with like how many Sundays after the spring equinox. But that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird.
Baffling.
Yeah.
Baffling. Society
Calendar
is
stuff is
weird.
weird.
It is weird. Because like we're supposed to have 13 months.
Yeah.
At-
The zodiac, I think, changed, or some people in like astrology like created a 13-month zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I
Do
can
you
tell you
pay
about that.
attention to stars or anything? Like, do you
I like
care
looking at
somebody's?
them.
Yeah, I get that. Do
Um,
you care like astrological signs and stuff? Like, oh, I'm a Libra, so like I only get along with like Aries and stuff.
oh, I mean, as a like a personality uh like predictor,
Mhm.
no. I think like all personality tests, I guess you could say, there's something interesting about it being used as a tool to understand yourself better.
Right.
But I would say that about, you know, like I haven't done the Enneagram, but when you do sort of any test that tells you about yourself, your leadership style, your love language, your whatever,
Hmm.
like it's a pretty interesting tool for introspection.
Right.
So I could tell you that I am a Cancer sun and a Libra moon and a Sagittarius rising.
I don't know what any of those mean.
Yeah, all right. There was a period there where I was like, yeah, I'm really curious more about my like star chart and
Mhm.
where like each planet falls into the different zodiac houses based on the position of the stars when I was born.
Okay.
Um, and that was a fad that lasted maybe a year.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people in theater like to know that stuff. So I get asked all the time, like,
Mm.
what's your rising sign?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a Sag rising. And they're like, oh, wow, so cool. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's get to the scene, okay? Tired of talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I recently ran into somebody and I was talking to this girl at the bar and she was like, well, what are your signs? And I was like, I know I'm an Aries, but that's like the extent.
Yeah.
And I don't even really care about that.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, so you like all this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, sure. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Am I getting your number or not? That's
Probably not if you approach it that way.
I did actually. I did get her number. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, 'cause it's a leadership thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a way of talking to people that makes them feel comfortable for some reason because I'm very honest.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a good quality to have if you have a podcast.
Yeah.
Way to find your calling.
Yeah. One of them anyway. Yeah, it comes off one of two ways. Like this guy's really arrogant or this guy's really confident. So it depends on like if they're attracted to me, I'm really confident. If they're not, then I'm arrogant.
I feel like most traits have that double-edged sword.
I stab myself all the time.
Well, don't we all?
Yeah. Yeah. But enough about me. All right. The podcast listeners already know way too much about me, actually.
All right.
So you were born
I was
on not from a tube, which is great. You can never be too safe anymore. We discovered you're a vampire.
Mhm.
So that's really cool. Yeah,
I'm not a vampire. Sorry. I lied.
So we have
Now you think that I'm a liar.
Yeah, is not checked off in this one. Cool. I don't know how I feel comfortable like doing the rest of this podcast.
Okay. All right. I can promise to be honest going forward.
Oh, you promise? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. As most manipulators say. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. And here we go. So you were born and raised Laramie, Wyoming.
Yep.
Where'd you go after that? You said you were...
So I went to the University of Wyoming for college.
Okay.
Got a bachelor's of fine arts in theater and dance performance.
Okay.
Which is a really long way of saying that I learned how to do musicals.
Cool. I love musicals.
Yeah, I love musicals. Then I spent a year touring the country with Missoula Children's Theater. So my tour partner and I would go from town to town 1 week at a time and put on original musicals with the kids in the community. Fun, yes, but also crazy and exhausting and a whirlwind. But I learned a lot, which is great. From there, I moved to California. I was in Sacramento, worked in administrative theater. So writing grants, putting on summer camps, paperwork, the boring stuff that has to go into making art happen.
Ew.
Yeah, I did that for a summer. And then I did an acting and artistic director apprenticeship at a really cool theater company in Sacramento called Capital Stage, where I trained as an artist, but also learned how to run a theater company. And then I moved home and I started a theater company.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So at what age did you decide, like, because you asked a lot of kids and they're like, what do you want to be? And they're like, I want to be a fireman.
Yeah.
So what age were you like, I want to be an actor and then
Right.
I want to run theater companies?
Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I think part of that is because my parents didn't let my sister and I have any pets. So I was like, animals, I want one. My parents thought I was going to be an engineer or an architect because I really loved playing with blocks and would build all sorts of really complex structures.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Legos.
Oh, yeah. Loved it. But when I was in fourth grade, did some like biographical performances for history and social studies. So basically taking a topic in history and then picking a person and writing a script to like learn about it and teach others from the perspective of that historical figure. Maybe we can attribute that to American Girl dolls. I'm just making that connection right now.
Hey,
not sure.
That's what the podcast is for.
Yep, there we go. And so that was when I think really found my love for acting itself. I started dancing when I was 8. I started choir when I was 10. So I always loved really all of the aspects of musical theater. But I think the idea of actually using my voice in a storytelling component, not singing, but speaking, started when I was in fourth grade. When I was 14, my grandparents took me to see this production of The Music Man at California or Sacramento Music Circus, which is actually where I worked, writing grants and running theater camps and stuff later on.
Okay.
But that was when I saw a show and realized that it was a profession that you could get paid to sing and dance. And I said, oh, with that, I am doing that.
Nice.
So at 14, I was pretty set on the next 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Great to have a 10-year plan at 14.
Yeah, for sure. I had no idea what I was doing.
The thing is, then it led to, me being 34 and thinking I got to get out. Or at
34.
least pivot. I mean, last year was 34. No, that's not true. Last year I turned 35. I don't know how old I am.
That's fine. You said pivot, and it's also on your cup.
Yeah, I love Friends.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
My sister gave me this mug, pivot.
Yeah.
Let's move a couch up a stairwell.
Yeah, that's the story of my life.
That's for all of you at home who love Friends.
All you friends.
It's the perfect opportunity for the laugh track. Man.
Yeah, I don't know what button it is actually. So my bad. I forget about that thing.
Yeah.
Like it has Bluetooth capabilities and stuff too. Like I could call people and like record that way. I don't do that either.
Yeah.
I used to call people and then it just became this point where it was like very unscripted, right? Very unpredictable. And they would say some wild stuff. And I was like, maybe
need some guardrails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we do go off the rails here a few times. Like we're going to.
That's fine.
We already have.
I was just gonna say I feel like that's already happened, so it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm nimble.
See, we get to know you as a person.
I love it.
Not as just another Joe Schmo off the street,
Well, I mean, I ran this theater company for 11 years. I spent all of that time very much being the face of a company, constantly going on radio, on podcasts, doing interviews for news, whatever, being not necessarily scripted, but to an extent performative and not fully me, like very much the version of me that is the director of this company.
Right.
So this is quite refreshing.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. I try to make it refreshing and fun.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I try anyways. But on a more serious note, where do you think we go when we die?
Love it. I mean, that really has to, there are a few different ways that you can think about this, right? Because are you talking about our physical bodies, in which case those are going to disintegrate and some of them will go in the ground and some of them will turn into ashes and some of them will turn into trees.
Mm.
I think that that's so fascinating. The people who like turn themselves into a tree, their body at least.
Right.
Heard something on the radio a while back about people wanting to compost their bodies. I think that's pretty interesting. Personally, I'm going to give mine to science, but
science.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I know you said that you didn't want to get into the medical stuff, but I have multiple sclerosis.
Okay.
And I want my brain and my spine to go to scientists to hopefully figure out why this happens.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting thing. I've always been, because I was supposed to, so crazy story about me that I don't know if the podcast listeners know.
Ooh, something new.
Yeah, something new. The more you know. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's the pink one.
There we go. So they thought I was gonna be a girl, literally until I was born, because my mom had me at Loma Linda Student Hospital. And so that she did all the tests there and everything like that. So like a lot of my baby pictures, I'm like wearing pink and yellow and like baby blue. And
baby blue is and yellow. All right. I mean, I worked at a children's store for a while. Those are both gendered colors for boys. Sorry. Continue. I'm so sorry. Please. Loma Linda.
Okay. And so
Thought you were going to be a girl.
Yeah. I mean, my fashion sense hasn't gone away. So like I kept some things, right?
Defy the norm.
And I talk to women really well. So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to be a girl and I come out and they're like, it's a boy. Here you go. And so my mom was like, okay, well, I was going to name him Samantha, but now I have to figure out a whole new name for it. And, you know, in hindsight,
it had a whole new name for it.
Yeah, it.
Okay.
That's what I was at the time. And so she's like, I like Michael Jackson. I like George Michaels. So I'm going to name him Michael. Right. And, you know, hindsight now, maybe not the two best characters to name your kid after, but it is what it is. And I tell people it's biblical. Okay. You know, and then I was supposed to be born with spina bifida. And again, they got that wrong. So, you know, there's been a lot of advancements in technology since then, right? But yeah, so I've always kind of been like in this area of like very cautious, you know? I still play football and stuff, you know, because like you can't let it define you, right? I always did extreme sports, you know, snowboarding and stuff like that. But now as I get older, and it might just be age, I'm like, my sciatica. I have to be more mindful of that.
I mean, I think there definitely is an element of getting older and becoming more attuned with what your body is telling you and what it needs. Definitely the idea of like defying medical prognoses is something I get. Like the first year that after I was diagnosed with MS, I was like, nah, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to, you know, work myself ragged. Like this isn't defining me.
Right.
Like I don't have MS. We're not going to talk about that. That's a word that's a synonym we don't say. Acronym, not synonym, acronym. You know, and then my body was like, yeah, you can't avoid this. You can't pretend it's not there. But definitely like mind over matter sometimes. And other times like listen to your body.
Yeah. That's what I tell myself when I'm at the gym. Mind over matter. I can do this last rep. No.
Just so long as you keep breathing, right?
That's the word. I'm the worst about that actually when I'm at the gym. It's like, I just pump it, you know, trying to gut it. Trying to be Mr. Universe. But yeah, it doesn't work out usually. I hurt. I
Yeah.
hurt a lot. Yeah. When I was like in my early 20s, I did a lot of like BMX stuff, right? Yeah, that roughed me up good. That roughed me up good. Now I do things like use my brain for clerical work. Super
Yeah.
cool. Super cool. I love it.
Mental computation.
Is that what we're calling it?
Why not?
Okay. I'll try to remember that.
That's what I called it. I don't.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
I like playing with words. I don't know what to say.
I love playing with words. Words with friends, crosswords.
I make crosswords.
You make crosswords.
Yes, I create crosswords.
And how do you do that?
Well, if you want a 15 by 15 grid, then you start there.
Okay.
And then you fill out. You create where the black squares are going to be, and that's going to be symmetrical if you fold it like diagonally. So the bottom left mirrors the top right.
Okay.
And then I'll think about like what's the theme for this puzzle. I'll come up with a whole bunch of different possible theme answers, figure out how many letters each of those potential themes are, fit them, plug them into the grid, and then create the fill. And then with the fill, create clues. There's also a program called crosswordhobbyist.com.
Oh.
So that's the software that I use.
Awesome.
Yeah. I had the option to make one crossword puzzle for $5 or have a lifetime subscription for $8.
Ooh,
it was a hard choice, but I went with the lifetime. I made the commitment.
Yeah.
And I have definitely made my money's worth.
Awesome. Well, good. I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you.
I was an English major, so always just love
the
words. And I think that's why I really like hip hop.
Yeah.
Because like the wordplay and all the things that they can say or don't say. Mm-hmm. I love saying things, as I have a podcast.
I read about this hip hop artist who turned the Odyssey into a hip hop performance, and I thought that was really cool. Like, that is an excellent way to engage young minds in the classics.
Yeah, same thing with Hamilton.
I love Hamilton.
Hamilton is great. I've never seen Hamilton until 2023.
Mm-hmm.
As like when I watched it.
Yeah.
Because it's on Disney Plus.
Yep, you can, and they did an excellent job. Like if you watch we want to talk about like filming Broadway shows to be distributed beyond New York. They used to be really bad at it. Mm-hmm. Just like a single camera, basically, really, PBS-y.
Right.
Of the 90s.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that PBS does a much better job now. Like technology has advanced. I don't want to diss public broadcasting, but Hamilton did. I mean, just the filmography of this version that you can see on Disney is excellent. And it's becoming more of a genre now. Like they just had the original cast of Hadestown revive the show on West End in London so that they could film it and edit it the same way that they did Hamilton. And I'm so excited because it's the best musical ever.
I don't know. Hamilton's pretty awesome.
Hamilton is up there.
Yeah.
But it's not Hadestown.
All right. Well, I'll have to watch it sometime.
Yeah. What in the future, once it has been edited and becomes distributable, probably on Disney Plus, you'll be able to see it.
Okay.
And it's excellent, especially if you like Greek mythology.
Okay.
So
I think all mythology is weird.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Stories of stuff, right?
Like trying to understand humanity and the cosmos and why. Always weird.
I've been writing a lot of poetry about like existentialism.
Okay.
And like my existence in general.
Love going back to that question of like, why am I even here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You just love that question. It's like,
I love going back to that question. I don't know if I love it because I never have an answer for it, but that's also what I love about it.
Okay.
It's a mystery.
Okay. I like Nancy Drew, all right, but I don't read it all the time.
Okay, existential poetry.
Right, existential poetry. And so I'm opening up for a poet at UW next week.
Very cool.
Um and I feel like that was kind of the theme of like a lot of my poetry that I'm presenting.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Why?
Yeah.
An excellent question.
I think about why too much. I am an insomniac, so everybody else is asleep, right? And I have no one else to talk to besides myself. And it's just like, why?
Why?
What? How?
Yeah.
Like, those are the questions that come to me. It sucks.
Um, I love this podcast called Philosophize This. And there was a whole series on the creation of meaning and like looking at all of the different philosophers' answer to that question of why.
Mm,
So, maybe next time that you're having your existential insomniac musings, just put on that podcast and have a conversation with a philosopher
mm, okay.
if you want.
Yeah. If I remember.
I mean, well, you have it recorded, so.
Yeah, watch these after I'm done. No way. Not even a little. My voice. Yeah. No. No, I will say I watched like the first like maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, and we're too far in at this point.
Oh yeah, way too far in at
All
this
right,
point.
okay.
I don't even know how far in we're actually in because these conversations just go, Okay, we're doing pretty good. We're doing
Okay,
pretty good.
Great.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Great.
You're a great guest. Time just seems to fly right now.
Well, thank you.
And we haven't even talked about you that much, really. We've been talking about a bunch of like everything that isn't you. We got like your birthday and how you got into theater.
Yeah.
So when you back to you.
Real nice segue. What do you want to ask next?
Yeah. Back to you, Miss Mason. When you're like picking plays to do, because I watched your most recent one, Roz and Ray.
Yes, you did.
And I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
The actors really did well. I was there on the first night. I don't know. So I don't know if they flubbed a few lines or if that's the way it was supposed to be. But there were a few lines in there that I caught, but I am very observant. So I don't really know if other people caught those kind of things.
I don't know what to tell you because I was house managing, so I didn't see it.
Didn't see it.
I didn't see the opening performance.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was a good, but it's still, great.
I had seen it every single night for the last month prior. So basically it was, my mom was going to house manage, but her friends were there. And I was like, Mom, go watch the show with your friends.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it. I'll sit in the house or in the lobby and make sure, no ruffians come in.
Right.
Direct the performance. Not that that happens, but
yeah.
But that's why we have a house manager. So
yeah.
And for any like latecomers, if people come late and want to get in late or want to buy tickets or whatever.
Okay.
It's just someone there to answer questions and manage the house.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I have no idea if there were little hiccups or not.
Once the play ended, I really liked how it ended.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody, like I went into this space because I think about stuff a lot, right?
Especially in the middle of the night.
Yes, in the middle of the night, right? This play ended about 9:30ish.
Would have ended at 9. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I do, but that's okay.
I know that I was caught in just thinking about stuff, right? And that was the kind of the point of the play, right? Was to kind of help with like bringing these things into light that haven't like really been there before. And so why don't you tell the listeners like what the main plot of the play was?
Yeah. So this play, Roz and Ray, it's by Karen Hartman, who is a contemporary female playwright based out of New York now. She was in Seattle for a while. And it actually was partially inspired by her father. She was raised in San Diego, California. Her father was a hematologist oncologist. So basically treating kids with cancer, hemophiliacs, other individuals who have bloodborne diseases or diseases that proliferate in the blood. And this was during the 1970s and 80s. So there was a really big breakthrough in hemophilia care in the 1970s, where doctors could administer this thing called this medication called Factor VIII to their patients. Hemophiliacs are missing a blood protein that's actually called Factor VIII. And so really original naming of the medical product that patients could then administer to themselves to replace this clotting factor, basically. So they could live normal lives. They could participate in sports. They could, be active rather than being dependent, homebound in wheelchairs by their 20s, dead by 30. And so this was the inspiration for the play, which is about Ray, who is the father of two boys, twin hemophiliacs, and their pediatric hematologist oncologist, Roz, who is really spearheading this shift in treatment for kids with hemophilia, boys with hemophilia. It only affects boys. And so Roz is teaching the boys basically how to administer this Factor VIII for their care in the 70s, prior to the AIDS crisis. But of course, the AIDS crisis happening starting in 1981 was the first identified case. Then once they were able to epidemiologically trace the disease back further, they started seeing cases in the 70s. But at the time, it was the first reported case in 1981. And they thought that it was specifically medically in the community, in society, and culturally, the idea was that AIDS was transmitted purely through gay sex, that it was the really awful different nicknames like the gay plague. In fact, before they had a true medical name for it, they were calling it gay-related immune deficiency. Until they started,
Thunder?
Yeah, that's thunder.
Heavy.
Yeah,
Alright.
we got a storm brewing.
I'm sorry.
AIDS storm. Yes. Anyway, so then they come to learn that actually AIDS is a bloodborne virus. It is transmitted through the blood. So if there was infected blood in these products that the hemophiliac community was using for their treatment, then they would be infected with AIDS as well. And that's in fact, that is what happened. Where in this period in the 1980s, over 90% of hemophiliacs in America contracted HIV/AIDS through this Factor VIII, because they didn't have reliable tests to regulate the blood that they were using to create the factor to treat the patients. And so most of them died. And that's basically what the play covers, 15 years from 76 to 91, where Roz and Ray are traveling through this journey of what's happening on a larger medical landscape.
That's a very good synopsis.
It was a little bit wordy. I have a problem. Like I get talking, and anyway, thank you.
It's a podcast.
Yeah, there we go.
I really liked like the actors. I liked the storyline of it. And so so once the play ended, I was just kind of like sitting there thinking about stuff, and I go off on I think about crazy stuff all the time, right? So then I started thinking about the medical field and like how they deal with crisis and things like that, and like it brought me back to 2020, like how COVID was being taken care of, as they say.
It is really, I mean, this play was written in 2016. So it's very interesting to read reviews from, 2018 when it was having its rolling world premiere across the country, or productions from 2019 versus reviews from productions post-COVID, because it is a different it hits differently.
Mhm.
Like it resonates in our cultural consciousness differently
Yeah.
post COVID. It can't not.
Yeah. I've yeah, so like I was just thinking about all that kind of stuff, and 2020 was a wild time, right? Like, us as humans during this time, I I think being born in the 80s, late 80s and 90s, we've seen so many different things
Mhm,
happen, right?
mhm.
Cell phones and just the technology in general. Internet, yeah. Internet.
Then smartphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Touchscreen. I remember my
Yeah.
first touch phone.
What?
Yeah, it was like
It's the way of the
2008.
future. There's a line in Roz and Ray about how like down the line Roz will call Ray on a television phone.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's right. This was 1991 when she's saying that. That
Yeah.
didn't exist yet.
That's pretty wild.
Mhm.
So, um it was a really good play. I really liked
Thank
it and
you.
I enjoyed watching it. I didn't even it's a good play when you don't really notice how time passes, right?
Yep.
Like it stays entertaining and engaging.
Yeah.
So kudos to the actors, kudos to the director.
Thank you.
Um have have you acted in anything in a while, or do you like still find that you want to?
I love acting. I acted in Heroes of the Fourth Turning, which is so Roz and Ray was produced by Relative Theatrics in Laramie, and each year Relative Theatrics selects a season of plays, a slate of 4 plays to produce. And so Roz and Ray was the final play of this current season. Heroes of the Fourth Turning was the first play of the season. So that was back in September.
Okay.
So I acted in that show. Then I went to Pinedale and directed a show up in Pinedale and helped with a endurance performance art piece in Lander, and then came back here to direct Roz and Ray.
Okay.
Yeah. So been bouncing around doing a few different things, but did get to act last August, September, which was lovely.
So when you act,
Mhm.
do you also like do the directing, or do you just focus on acting?
Um, so what was great about Heroes of the Fourth Turning was that it was my first time acting with Relative Theatrics and only acting.
Mm,
Where all I had to do was show up, engage in rehearsal as an actor, you know, build the character with my fellow castmates, do the show, go home. Um, in the past with Relative Theatrics, where I was directing the company itself, so the executive artistic director, basically the producing artistic director was the full title, but it meant that I was doing both the managing of the company and the artistic curation, basically. Um, Talking with my hands too much.
it's all right. It's
Well,
perfect.
now I'm like bumping the mic. Anyway, it was for a while. It was really hard for me to act and produce simultaneously, just because it's using 2 different parts of the brain, um, and I would have a hard time focusing. Like as we were mentioning earlier, at the beginning, like if I was on stage in rehearsal, I might think of something that needed to happen from a marketing standpoint, which
Mhm.
would be the role of the producer, not the role of the actor. And that would take me out of that mindset of the creative process.
Right.
And so I had a harder time giving either job its full due credit. Whereas it was much easier to produce a show and direct the production at the same time, because those just overlap a little bit more. So I would have my notebook in front of me, and if I'm working with the actors and remember that I have to do something marketing wise, I can just like make a little note in the margins, and then when I go home and switch into marketing or to production mode, then the note's right there. It's fine.
Mhm.
Just easier to switch gears in that way. Um, but the more that Relative Theatrics grew and more people came on staff to assist, whether that was with technical direction or marketing or whatever, then it was easier for me to step into the acting role and to have some clearer boundaries and compartmentalizing. Okay, these hours I am an actor. These, in this rehearsal, don't ask me production questions. I'm an actor. But, if rehearsal ends at 9 o'clock, feel free to ask me at 9:05.
Mm.
Um, but I don't, since I handed the leadership over last June, July, doing Heroes of the Fourth Turning, I just got to be an actor, which was amazing.
Okay.
So freeing to just show up in that manner.
I would, because there's a lot of actors and actresses that also direct in movies and stuff.
It's a little different. I mean, film is a different medium. Um, like this is obvious, but theater is live. And so you can't, if you're acting and on stage, you can't see yourself simultaneously. You can't see your surroundings. You can't see how the lighting looks. You can't hear what the audience is hearing because you are in one fixed position. Whereas for film, you film it and then you go into the position of the audience.
Sounds like
and
excuses.
you view. No, I'm not. It's not excuses. It's a technique. Just telling you. Some people do. Some people direct themselves on stage, and it's fine.
And it's fine.
It's not for me.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I'm getting to this point where like I'm producing this mixtape that's hip hop EDM. So when I'm performing it, like rapping and then doing DJ stuff, I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
and I kind of feel like it might be the same because it's hard to do both.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I've always thought I would be a good actor.
I think you probably would.
I think you probably would.
It depends on what work you put into it. I wholeheartedly believe that everyone can act. Everyone does act, whether they're good or not, is how much work they put into it. But just based off of how charismatic you are and you are already experiencing a full range of emotions just on this podcast and you're creative. Like if you would show up at rehearsals, I'm sure you would be a great actor.
I'm sure you'd be a great actor.
I'm trying to give you a compliment here, but okay.
Well, I'm not good at receiving those, so that's on you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always thought I would be a good actor in this movie that I'm writing right now. Is I don't want to make it for me, but it'd be really cool if like I acted in it.
Yeah.
Right. But
I think there's something awesome about people who write their own opportunities. I really do.
Do you do playwrights or anything like that?
I've done some playwriting more as a practice. It's reverse engineering of scene analysis, and so thinking about like as an actor, what would I want in a script and then writing that, or as a director, what would I like a playwright to give me and then writing that. And it just is another way of thinking about the craft. I've written a few short plays that have been produced and like acted by students at the university and things like that. Granted, this was earlier in my career and I don't think I had as much confidence, and so I really hated seeing it. There was this part of me that was like, oh no, people are going to think that this is about me or whatever, which is like partially true and partially not. Like that's fiction. Like it comes from the self. So there are elements that are absolutely about me and how I see the world, but also the characters were fictional. So they weren't me. And I didn't have the maturity, the artistic maturity or the like psychological maturity to comprehend that, I guess. But I haven't written any plays recently. So I don't know. I might. I've been thinking about some different things that could be interesting from a storytelling standpoint. Recently, I've been more into writing memoir, nonfiction, prose. So not specifically to be taken in the dramatic literature content, but
Well,
but I'm not opposed to it.
you seem like a busy person already. Mostly because your texting style is not responsive in any capability. It's usually like a day or so after.
That is true.
Yeah, you're not a great texter.
I'm not.
Not even a little bit.
And I don't own it. I will never tell anyone that texting is the way to reach me.
Yeah, that's evident.
Yeah.
That's very evident.
Mhm.
I found that out.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, this time 4 days later. Oh yeah, sure that works. Like, okay, cool. I'm glad I was able to schedule on a podcast at least. And we're here. We're doing it.
When I commit to a time, I am there.
That's good to know.
It just, don't expect to get a text response in
Any fashion, really.
any timely fashion.
Yeah, any timely fashion.
Oh, it'll be fashionable. Just wait, late.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
I know this about myself.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It's all about that awareness,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel that.
I also am really really curious. You said that because of my texting, you think that I am a busy person. And I guess it depends on how you want to think about busyness.
Mhm.
But I think I've recently been thinking a lot about pacing of life, and of slowing down, both like in terms of slowing down how much I am doing,
Mhm.
how much I'm saying yes to, but also slowing that sense of urgency,
Mhm.
and that's the sort of cultural pressure that our day and age has on hurriedness,
Mhm.
like the celebration of being busy.
Mhm.
Uh, but there's also so much value in rest and in downtime and in free time
Mhm.
to sit and observe and let the mind wander or let a free-form creative practice take place. Um, so I, about a year ago, pretty much broke up with my phone.
Mhm.
I check it a few times a day, but I really don't. I have a love-hate relationship with my phone. It loves me. I hate it.
Right.
But I don't. I mean, I just don't. I don't engage with it a ton. It's a tool. Um, I'm much better in person when I can just be present with somebody. And I do better when I have time in the morning to wake up and just, pet my cat and look out the window and observe, like, oh, the lilacs are starting to have little green buds coming through. That's really awesome, or whatever. Just to really slow down and observe more natural patterns rather than the go, 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 must get something done all the time and always be on and always be doing something and always be responsive. Um, I just don't think that that's sustainable for human beings in general, but certainly like over the last few years, my MS has caught up with me a little bit more, and has forced me to slow. And so thinking about how do I slow down, is really helpful.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I kind of want to go to Bali
Go to Bali. Oh my gosh, yes.
because like they are really about like just chillaxing and just
Yeah.
living their life.
Hmm.
And I feel like um one thing I really dislike is the concept of like money and stuff.
Yeah.
I understand we have to have it as a social construct,
Yeah.
but I hate the fact that we have to have it.
I am so there with you, which is hard because I was raised by two economists. So I have a lot of fun needling my dad about capitalism. It's all in good fun.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, as a social construct, it can be helpful,
Mhm.
and it can be incredibly limiting and destructive.
Yeah. That's see, and people don't understand it because like I don't care about money, right? I still have it.
Yeah.
And they're like Molasses Flood one time when he was in my studio and I was recording his album. He was looking around and I'm like, what's up? And he's like, where do you get this money from?
Mm,
And I was like, I don't know. Like it just comes to me. Like I don't care about it, right? So I donate it. I get rid of it. Like
mhm. So cool.
love Thunder so much.
Awesome.
I love Thunder.
And your dog doesn't mind it, which is great, seemingly.
And she's looking around like, what the?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, I think that's part of the reason that I just like have it is because I don't care about it. So I know how to use it.
Hmm.
I know how to make it work for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I want to be a creative so much to have like that passive income so I can live my life and do the things that I want to do and not just be worried about it all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I mean, and just that anxiety over money can be so crippling,
It destroys relationships.
psychologically, yeah, emotionally, interpersonally, health wise, right? Like
Yeah.
so many people have health issues because they are fretting about finances.
Yeah. It's it's tough. I
Hmm.
dislike it.
Hmm.
I've been homeless before. So like I've not had money
Yeah.
and I didn't really worry about it then,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So I just grew up poor. Like my family I had three other siblings, so four in total. And my parents were financially illiterate.
Mm.
So we always moved and like this state of comfortability was not something I was accustomed to
Sure.
until I bought this house.
Hmm.
And then I was just like, okay, like I can chill.
Hmm.
And I've learned from my parents' mistakes of like always constantly moving. Like even the place that I had before this, the apartment that I had before this, wasn't ideal, but I still lived there for 6.5 years
Yeah.
because I hate moving so much.
Oh, moving is it's exhausting.
Yeah, makes me want to vomit. Makes me physically sick.
Yeah. I hate moving.
Yeah, it's the worst. But I like stability.
Yeah.
But again, I I just don't care about that stuff. You know, I'd rather I see Pat Golden on the podcast I did with him. He said, I'd rather be poor and happy than, you know, have money and stressed.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that that's like a big shift that I had when I realized that like my health was not stable. I was burnt out. I was exhausted, and I was no longer receiving happiness from my work when I was directing relative theatrics. Like that was a really hard awakening to have, but realizing that I was super stressed, constantly working because I felt like I had to, both out of responsibility for the company, but also like from a paycheck standpoint. Um, and realizing that no, that's not actually the case. And I would be happier and healthier if I passed this on
Mhm.
and basically gave my baby away to somebody else to run because I founded the company. So
Yeah.
like I built it from the ground up. It was, and I don't have my own kids. So it was my child. It was like
Mhm.
what all of those efforts went into, what all of that stress went into. Um, and ultimately realizing like I don't need to have this grind all the time. I don't need to have this hustle all the time. I don't need to be building this up more. Um, to have some sense of like to feel like I have some sense of value or worth.
Mhm.
Like I am more than my company.
Right.
Um, and I need to give all of this love and care and attention that I have been flooding into this organization. Like I need to give that to myself.
Mhm.
It was really hard, really, really hard to come to terms with that, and to then make the succession plan and actually execute it. And it was a long process.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that it was a long process because it was incredibly intentional and it has been successful. So that feels great. But also like being on the other side of it now and recognizing how much more time I am giving to myself and to my own care and my rest and just my well-being.
Yeah.
Um, and like I've had to cut back on finances and like I don't I don't go to coffee shops as much, which is maybe the saddest part because
Oh
I
no.
love coffee shops, but like okay, I'll make my coffee at home instead. That's fine. Right? But just like those small little tweaks so that the budget balances, financial literacy.
Right.
But like being able to do that so that you can give to yourself more, and not be so worried about constantly accruing more wealth or status or recognition or um, whatever scripts our cultural codes are telling us we're supposed to have.
Right. See, and I've always been against society in most aspects of my life, right?
Mhm.
So not conforming to that social norm of you have to have this much money to
Mhm.
be successful, right? Um, it's just it's been something that I've been fighting with myself is just like what is my definition of success, right?
Yeah. What is it?
I am still figuring that out.
Yeah. When I was a senior in college, I was taking auditioning and professional issues. So basically, let's teach you how to be an actor in a large market, basically. Um, and my professor had us do this exercise of like, okay, think 10 years into the future, 3 different scenarios. What's your dream scenario? What's your great scenario? What's your good scenario? Essentially, in all 3 ways, defining success.
Mhm.
And at that time, I was thinking like, oh, okay, so I need to move to a city. I need to be working as an actor, making my money as an artist, um, and have housing, basically, um, and not actually sitting back and thinking like, but what actually would be successful to me? And when I started Relative Theatrics, I struggled with that a lot those first few years of like being back in Laramie, not having really gone and pursued freelance artistry in New York City or San Francisco or Chicago or any of those larger markets where there is more of a theater industry, an established theater industry, and thinking that like I didn't have the credentials or the legitimacy, that I wasn't successful enough to be coming home to start a theater company.
Right.
And not actually realizing that like what was successful for me was this idea of having a comfortable home and being creative.
Mhm.
And I think once I was able to sort of shift the prism a little bit and look at it through a different lens and realize that like I'm really happy in Laramie and that I could let go of those myths that told me that I needed to be a starving artist and really hustling somewhere with a larger population. Once I could let that go, then I was really able to just release into the freedom of creating in Laramie,
Yeah.
which was great.
That's another place that I kind of am right now, right? Because like EDM hip hop, not really Laramie's music
Yeah.
scene. I could go to a larger market, but I'm also fighting with a lot of different artists that are kind of doing the same thing.
Mm.
Because right now, like I'm one of the few in Wyoming
Right.
even doing it,
Mhm.
right? I know a lot of other producer friends and that they're doing like EDM and stuff, but they're not doing EDM hip hop, right?
Okay.
Redneck Limousine, which is out on platforms now, or at least by the time this comes out. um, I took like the Wyoming feel with like the banjo and the acoustic guitar,
Mhm.
and then flipped it with hip hop,
Mhm.
and then transitioned into EDM.
Yeah.
So combining all 3 of those things just as a way to say like, hey, I can do this.
And that's uniquely you,
Right. Yeah.
which is what creative, I mean, like, I think that's what creative acts should be. Like, how does this speak to the individual that is making it, their background, where they come from, and how they see the world?
Right. And uh, I'm still kind of like fighting with it,
Mhm.
um, because I don't get booked on shows or anything.
Yeah, there is that element of like from a marketability standpoint and
Mm,
the consumer.
right.
If like we're going to be talking in business or entrepreneurial terms, you know, who's your target audience? How are you
Mhm.
selling to them? Um, it's frustrating being in a more geographically limited place with fewer people and more limited access to like the different nuances of cultural creativity.
Yeah. 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 So, but with the way the internet is and
Right.
things like that, like it can be done.
Yeah.
It's just it takes a little longer,
Yep.
and I'm not getting any younger. You know, I feel it in my sciatic.
It's spina bifida.
Yeah, it is. It probably is. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that, but you seem to have made it happen.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is that I let go of the narrative that it needed to be something within a certain amount of time. And I let the company grow organically. Now, definitely from 2013 to 2019, I was grinding. Like I was just working so hard, constantly working, constantly getting the word out there, growing the company, doing more fundraising, growing the staff, building the budget out, writing more grants, all of the things to make the capacity for the organization greater and for the recognition of the organization to be more prominent. So I was working really hard, which was not at all sustainable. And then with COVID, there was a whole different pivot of how do you even do theater when the world has shut down
Right.
from public gathering.
Yeah.
So then there was a whole other extra amount of effort in that period to sort of transition an art form that is meant to be live into a means of online distribution,
Hmm.
which was something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We don't need to go into it. It was just a lot. Let's just say that. So I was. I mean, I was toiling pretty hard, right?
Mhm.
Like but I think I let go of maybe ideas of certain metrics that needed to be hit that don't work for this location.
Mhm.
Um, and so that I mean that really helped, I think, in just like giving myself and the company more grace to grow as it was supposed to.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I think what's really awesome is that what I didn't acknowledge when I was in college, um, that was a fun ride. But what I didn't acknowledge at that time was that what would be really successful for me was a creative life in Wyoming.
Mm.
That I really do love Wyoming. I love living here.
Mhm.
I love being a part of this citizenship.
Mhm.
Whether that's working with folks in Laramie or traveling elsewhere in the state. I love it here, and I want to be a creative in this state, and that's hard with theater because there's not a lot of theater here.
Yeah.
Definitely not at a professional standard. Um, there's a professional company in Jackson Hole.
Right.
Right. Everywhere else is what the industry would define as amateur.
Mm.
So it's hard to create a livelihood in that way. But through time, I have found a way to do that. And part of it was because at 21, I didn't say, I need to be making all of my money and success as an artist in Wyoming right now.
Yeah. Okay. I have this song I've been working on called you heard kind of like the baseline basis of it up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So because we're kind of on the subject, I'll read you like the second verse
Please do.
of this song that I've been working on. It's called Nobody Better, right? And so it starts out, if I say it, I mean it. If I think it, I dream it. I own it, don't lease it. Don't speak it, I be it. That's not being facetious. Yeah. I turn these other rappers into food because I'm in the mood doing 95 and a 62. When I hit the cruise, people ask why I have a different view. It's my life. Can't leave it up to you. I've been here. Deja vu. So it's like I came out the blue, silently making moves. Don't care about your feelings. I'm always staying true. I'm the only one in my city. I'm a trendsetter, money getter. Got that dog in me, wordplay, English setter. Married to the music, you can read it like a love letter. So there's no wonder how I keep it all together. This is why I realize there's nobody better. So, like, having kind of that shift is where this most of this album is coming from.
Yeah.
of like, I don't really need to prove to anybody else besides myself
Mm-hmm.
that I can do it
Yep.
and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a field of dreams, right? You build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were building your theater company and you were getting rid of that um position, I guess, like that mindset,
Yeah.
did you kind of go through that same thing of just like, I need to do this for me, while also kind of simultaneously figuring out a way to help the community around it?
Right. Um, well, when I started, so the company that I worked at, Capital Stage in Sacramento, did bold, thought-provoking, contemporary theater, plays that really speak to the present moment, that generally leave audiences with more questions than answers. And I really loved that. And it was the first time that I sort of stepped outside of the entertainment mindset of musical theater and more into the world building, community centric ideology of contemporary theater. And I really loved that. And I thought, oh, Laramie, this community of thinkers, it's a university town. This seems like something that my home would really rally around. Wouldn't it be cool if in like 10 years I moved home and started a theater company like this? And then I did it the next year.
Oh.
But
Perfect.
but for those first 2 years, I very much was constantly fighting that mindset and that positionality um, that there needed to be something more, or I needed to be value. Like I was weighing up against something else that either was or was not there.
Mhm.
I don't these narratives that we tell ourselves
Right.
that get in the way, like all of those limitations that are self-imposed, they were all present. And for the first 2 years of Relative Theatrics, I was producing one show at a time.
Okay.
So basically, it would be, it was I produced the first show in August, and then when that was done, the next month it was September, and I thought, oh yeah, I could produce another one. Okay, I'll pick one, and we did it in November. And then when that show was done, a few months later, I thought maybe I'll produce another show, and so the next one was in April. Whereas it wasn't planned out in advance, a whole year in advance. Basically, it was just like, okay, I'm going to do one, and then figure out like how to get back on track for my 5-year plan or whatever, or
Right.
like go to grad school and get more training, or move to a city and build my resume or whatever. Get those credentials. And it wasn't until so I started the company in 2013. It wasn't until 2015 where I was really able to shed all of those limiting myths that I was holding on to, and think more about like, no, I'm doing what I love doing. I'm where I love to be with the people who I love to work with, and I'm contributing something to the community.
Right.
That like that there is a desire for.
Mhm.
Like the only person who has been saying you're not good enough in this whole endeavor for the last 2 years was me. Everybody else was saying, this is amazing. Thank you for doing this. What's next?
Right.
But I didn't listen to them. So once I finally was able to stop listening to the devil on my shoulder or whatever,
Yeah.
and realize and start thinking about like, what is the mission of this work? And it was in 2015 that I assembled the board of directors, the paperwork to become a nonprofit organization, and created a mission statement that
Right.
that really became that North Star to guide forward with the company.
Yeah.
of presenting this contemporary, thought-provoking work that examines what as humanity brings us together to take artistic risks, to create this community gathering place
Right.
for everyone in the vicinity to come and celebrate creativity and ask questions and think deeply about our lives and our existence and
Yeah.
who we are to one another.
Community.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to this point in our show where I ask you then, what is your definition of success?
Yeah. I mean, from a very, very simple, like simplified way, you can say that it's, I think I just touched on it of like doing what I love, where I love, who am with those that I love. Um, which you could then distill down even further of just being like to love.
Mhm.
So I participated in this year long professional development program statewide a couple of years ago, and we created our own mission statements, personal mission statements as a part of that, which I'd never really thought about before. Like, oh, I like memorized the mission statements of the nonprofits that I worked at before I moved back home and started a nonprofit of my own. I memorized the mission statement of the nonprofit that I started. I fully understood this idea of having a mission statement for an organization, but never really thought about it for myself. And so doing that process as a part of this leadership program was really awesome to help, I guess, just attune my mind to that.
Okay.
And ultimately can distill it down into this notion of a desire to nurture humanity with empathy and grace. And the way I see it, so long as I am doing that, I am successful. If I am leading a life that is compassionate, that is curious, and that is connected, I'm successful.
Mine is a pinball machine in my house.
So I'm a little bit more theoretical. You're
Yeah.
a little bit material. That's okay. We can tilt.
Yeah. Which is also a pinball machine term.
Yes, it is. I used that specifically.
Oh,
I
okay.
made that choice.
So, okay, cool. They might not have known that.
We taught you something if you didn't already know.
Yeah. We thought we learned a lot about Miss Ann Mason.
About theater that educates, entertains, and enlightens.
Yeah. I really love this podcast, actually.
Thank you. This has been fun.
I do it well. Last question.
Okay.
Do you remember your dreams like when you wake up, like when you sleep?
Rarely. Or I'll remember like little wisps of them, but it doesn't last long. Sometimes I'll have vivid dreams. I do remember like the first dream that I ever really recall having as a child, which was just of a bunny in a green field.
How innocent.
I know.
So nice.
Young little Ann Mason.
Yeah.
Dreaming of bunnies.
That's nice.
Just in time for Easter.
Mine was not like that. The first dream I remember having that, like, it was a reoccurring dream. I'd have it like twice a year. And then it became like once a year. And now it's like once every few years. But I used to have like really bad abandonment issues. And like in California where we were at, there was like a lot of development and stuff.
Yeah.
And like my parents take me to this like development housing place or whatever, and then they just like my family just like leaves, and I'm like watching them like drive away, and I'm like bawling my eyes out, and I'm like maybe like 5 or 6 in this dream.
Poor little Michael Jackson, George Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it was horrible. But then like I always woke up,
Yeah.
Like, so I haven't had it in a while. I hope it's because I have healed that part of me. So isn't
it crazy though, in thinking that like it could come back, but that
it could come.
But that also you have this the foresight at this point in time that you can be like, maybe that's telling me something. Like you can use it as a tool for reflection.
Yeah. I have very vivid dreams every night. It's very rarely that I don't have a vivid dream.
Yeah.
So,
not me.
You're the opposite.
I am the opposite.
Must be nice, dude. I envy people that don't dream.
Well, I mean, I'm sure I dream. I just don't remember them.
I remember them.
You need to put me in an fMRI machine.
Okay.
And like have me go to sleep and then see the brain activity light up.
Right.
That would be cool. Maybe my material definition of success would be owning my own personal fMRI machine.
That's a lot. That's just to have a room dedicated to that is wild.
I just think it would be cool. I'm really curious about what happens in the brain.
Yeah, and have your friends sleep there. Like, all right, I need to know if you're a psychopath or not.
Like, let's see what your brain does.
Yeah. That's scary business. That's terrifying business, actually.
Okay, it's not. I came up with that on the fly. I don't actually know that, but I would like to go in an fMRI machine sometime. I've been in plenty of MRI machines, and that's fine. With them, I get pictures of my brain taken twice a year in an MRI machine. So
Okay.
I like calling it my brain's modeling session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice positive way to look at that.
You got to spin it somehow.
Yeah.
You really have to. But fMRI is so interesting because it tells you more about psychology and neurology and what is happening, like when certain elements of your brain light up. You know, if you're listening to music, what part of your brain is being activated. And
Right.
I just think that that's really cool. So I would love that experience.
I think that would be cool too.
Yeah.
Some point in time.
Yeah.
The listeners will make it happen because you guys are the real ones. Why doesn't Miss Mason tell us her socials for Relative Theatrics?
Sure. So you can follow Relative Theatrics at our Theatrics. I'm also on social media, and Catherine89. Catherine is spelled Catharine. We talked about where your name comes from. We didn't get to mine, but a story for another time. And then relativetheatrics.com. And then my website is acmcreativeconsulting.com.
And you know, her links will be in the description of the below of the YouTube channel. You guys are the real ones. I love you guys still listening to me, listening to the guests, and you guys make it worth it. You know, I do read the reviews. I do read the comments, and I've had one negative one. Okay. And I remember that, and I will find you. No,
have a very cordial conversation about what I can do better.
Nope. This is on you. It ain't on me. I already look inward, okay? You need to look inward when you're saying things like that about people because it hurts their feelings. Anyways, thank you, Miss Mason.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Okay. You should say that.
I know, legitimately. I've had a good time.
See, that's that compliment thing, right?
Yeah, he can't take the compliment.
I'm not good at compliments.
So go ahead and leave your 5-star reviews because we won't take them.
I won't. Change them now. But thank you again for your time and your energy. I really enjoyed this podcast. You're a fun guest. Say bye to the camera. Just wave, say bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
You're amazing.
You're amazing.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Mess up.
I'm going to take a break.